Alright everyone, I wanted to make a quick video. It's a follow-up to the video I did a while ago. Um, Linus Torvalds has come out and expressed his opinion on the code of conduct. And he's had some interesting things to say. Um, the CNET article, I haven't read it completely yet, but we'll go through it. Will Linux stop being a meritocracy where the best code rises to the top? And this is what Linus wrote. I'm trying to get rid of my outbursts and be more polite about things, but technically wrong is still technically wrong, and I won't start accepting bad code just to make people feel better about themselves. He went on to write, but there are very tangible and immediate common goals in any technical project like Linux. And while there is occasionally disagreement about how to solve some particular issue, there's very real cohesive force in that common goal of improving the project. And even when there are disagreements, people in the end often fairly clear and objective often have fairly clear and objective measures of what is better. Code that is faster, simpler, or handles more cases naturally is just objectively better, without people really having to argue too much about it. Will people be censored in Linux circles? He wrote, I may have my reservations about excessive political correctness, but honestly, I absolutely do not want to be seen as being in the same camp as the low-life scum on the internet that thinks it's okay to be white nationalist Nazi and have some truly nasty, misogynistic, homophobic, or transphobic behavior. And those people were complaining about too much political correctness too, and in the process just making the public stance look bad. So, as we can see here, this is, frankly, this is what Torvalds is saying here is pretty much how I'm feeling about it. There's some more I'll have to explain, but he goes on to explain how he's not really a fan of the political correctness movement, but he sees how the anti-political correctness movement is filled with a bunch of well, let's be real about it. It's an industry. It's the anti-political correctness movement, quote unquote, is an industry. It's these videos about anti-PC culture. They're pretty popular. They resonate with a lot of people because a lot of people don't like political correctness. But the reality is that we're being divided into two groups, and unsurprisingly, it's the same groups that fought each other in World War II, Nazis and communists, with essentially very similar ideologies from each other. And both groups are incredibly hostile and intolerable. So I completely agree with Torvalds on that point. If that's the case, why didn't Linux have a real code of conduct much earlier? The arguments about behavior never seem to end up having a common goal, except in some sense the argument itself. Have you read the Twitter feeds and other things by the people who seem to care more about the non-technical side? I think your hype stories is about as polite as you can put it. It's a morass of nastiness instead of a common goal. You end up with a horrible fighting between different in-groups. It's very polarizing, and both sides love egging the other side on. It's not even a discussion. It's just people shouting at each other. That's actually the reason that for the longest time I did not want to be involved with the whole COC discussion in the first place. The whole subject seems to be very easily just devolve and become unproductive. I found a lot of people who pushed for the COC and criticized me for cursing to be hypocritical and pointless. I could easily point you to various tweet storms by people who criticize my white cis male behavior while at the same time cursing more than I ever do. So what's my excuse for dismissing a lot of the politically correct concerns? For years, I felt it wasn't worth it. Anybody who uses the words white cis male privilege was simply not worth my time even talking to, I felt. So why is Torvalds changing things now? I'm not making excuses for some of my own rather strong language, but I do claim that it never was any kind of nastiness. I got upset with bad code and people who made excuses for it and used some pretty strong language in the process. Not good behavior, but not the racist, etc. claptrap some people spout. So in the end, I really don't want to be too PC stance simply because it became untenable. Partly because you definitely can find some emails from me that were simply completely unacceptable, and I need to fix that going forward. But to a large degree, also because I don't want to be associated with a lot of people who complain about excessive political correctness. I mean, this is it's very interesting from my perspective. I found this out like a decade ago, but me and Linus Torvalds are related to each other. He's my fifth cousin twice removed. I'm about a quarter Finnish myself. And, I haven't really studied Torvalds that much, but man, do we think alike. I don't want to be a Nazi, and I don't want to be associated with, the oversensitive, like, PC police nonsense. I don't like communism. I don't like Nazism. I like Americanism. I'm an American. I like freedom for people and people not imposing on other people. Is Torvalds really changing, or is this just a public relations move? I still care about technology, and I'm not exactly the most empathetic person, but I'm hoping I can at least fake it until I make it. Part of that faking it is definitely going to be a filter on my outgoing emails, but as mentioned, I'm actively also trying to find professional therapists to talk to as well. So, I don't think this one explained exactly. I think this article that I read before was actually a bit better. It's ironically on ZNet. Wait, different. Yeah. Wait, ZDNet. Yeah. So the same thing, basically. Same site, different article. Or no, it was the BBC article. That's right. That I read. Yeah, so, yeah. This is what, I think is honestly the most rational opinion you can have these days. When, who was it, Lacey Green and Chris Reagan like hooked up. They really that really pointed out to me a lot that the social justice warriors, they really do have a lot of points. White men have been running society for a long time, a long time, and there is a lot of things as a white person that we don't have to deal with. It's not so much that I don't like to think of it as we're privileged per se, as we just don't have barriers put up. Whereas, if you're black, if you're Hispanic, if you're a woman, there's a lot more barriers that are put up in front of you. And breaking those barriers down is a good thing, I believe. But at the same time, you don't want to get into some insanity where you pretend that gender doesn't exist or any of this nonsense that comes out of the excessive politically correct movement. You know, the Zen masters of old, they figured it a long time ago. In fact, let me see if I can find what I'm talking about. You know, they figured it out a long time ago with the yin yang. You need to have the balance. You know what I'm saying? You can't be too politically correct and you can't be a freaking Nazi. You gotta find the balance between the two. And you should never be willing to die for these or kill for these ideologies. Otherwise, you're just as bad as the people you're trying to fight against. I mean, that's like a universal life lesson: is that you always become what you hate. So, you know, if you really hate social justice warriors, you really need to try and deal with the hate you have. And if you really hate Nazis, the same is true, because you're just going to end up doing exactly what you're complaining the other side is doing. You're just going to become everything you hate, because you always become what you hate. All right, that's I think that's good for this video. Okay, thank you for watching, everyone.